What I'm about to share with you is quite potentially the most dangerous knowledge in all of the manifestation community, in everything New Age, in everything occult. This is the principle that they don't want you to know, except that oftentimes they don't really even need to suppress this knowledge because it's so dangerous. It's just as dangerous to you as it is to the established order. This is the Second Amendment kind of shit.
Feel the fire, see the dream, code of stars in my bloodstream. This is power, not just invention. This is life in the destiny engine.
And in my typical pro-Americana attitude, I still got the face tattoo from the Halloween party the other night. But I have no issue of conscience when it comes to handing people a loaded weapon with the safety off in the free world where people are grown adults and can do what they please. Because if we don't allow such things, if we don't allow the freedom of speech, and we don't allow the radical exploration of consciousness in whatever way that people choose, we're going to miss out on the rich tapestry that is our community, that is our birthright. That is, if I don't permit you to do what you will and to make your own mistakes, I will never learn from either your successes or your failures. But because this thing is so dangerous, that's why I give it to you with a warning label, with a disclaimer, because I hope for the best for you. And I believe that if you take a proper precaution and you're just conscious of what you're doing, and, just like you have gun safety protocols, like you keep your gun locked up in a safe when you're not there. If you have kids in the house, obviously even more so, you keep your guns locked up. And you even train them in gun safety. You go to a range, you make sure your sight is always aligned. Just common sense kind of stuff. And so in just the same way, I warn you to find your North Star and make it a priority that you connect with the highest influences. You pray to the highest God, that you select masters and guides that care for your best interest when you go into this. Okay? So I promised you I'm going to share with you the most powerful manifestation secret that I've learned on my entire journey. And I have manifested a beach condo, the car of my dreams, freedom from the 9 to 5. You can see here I'm spending my time doing exactly what I love and nothing else. And a lot of this just fell into place in the past year from following these exact principles. But the biggest shift has been in my energy, that I have this freedom about me that typical social constraints or societal expectations, I don't feel compelled to follow them. I just sort of do what I want when I want. But not in a childlike way. Like, I still self-discipline, but because of relentlessly following this particular principle, I have been able to make all of that happen. And I traded one set of problems for a more interesting set of problems and complete and total freedom. All right. So before we get into what the thing is, I need you to promise me you're going to be careful You're going to follow the preliminary guidance. And second, I'm going to tell you a story. So let's rewind to when I was in the first grade. And there was a day in which they gave us a standardized test. And they called it like the standard or Stanford achievement test. And it wasn't the SAT, like the college entrance exam. It was a different kind of multiple choice fill in the bubble type of test. But they were testing for proficiency in math, reading, language, science, logic. Basically an intelligence test. And we took this test on 1 or 2 days, different modules of it. And when the results came back, they were used to place us in the particular reading, English, or math class that we would be taking as first graders. And there were 3 options. You could either be in the regular first grade mathematics class, you could be in the accelerated class, which is literally a year ahead of everybody else, or you could be in the remedial class, so you were a year behind. In some cases, people were 2 years behind. So if you were in the first grade, you were taking second grade mathematics or second grade reading if you were accelerated or gifted. So I happened to fall into that category, as I was a year accelerated in reading and mathematics in the first grade. So of course, if you pass accelerated mathematics in the first grade, which is really second grade mathematics, in the second grade, they teach you third grade mathematics. And in third grade, they teach you fourth grade mathematics, and so on and so on. And so this carries on until high school, where instead of algebra, you're doing advanced geometry, or instead of geometry at a certain year when you're supposed to take that, you're doing trig or calculus. And so it made the difference between whether a student would ultimately take calculus in our local high school or not, and whether you would be able to get classes for college credit, or whether you would be in honors level classes or not, which meant that colleges would look at you differently, because if you took honors level classes, you were obviously more attractive to the admissions department at most major universities. Or if you came with AP credit, even better, because then you could skip certain classes, or you could take higher versions of those classes, and then you'd wind up taking even honors level college classes, and you'd get scholarship based on how intelligent you were. And so I rode that wave all the way until college, when I started smoking pot and managing my own time, and then my grades slipped to just where they needed to be instead of the weighted A++ that I was getting throughout my grade school, grammar school, high school career. But at that point, I was just trying to get a job. I figure we're at the end of the line here. I don't want to go for master's or PhD. I don't need the ego trip of somebody calling me Dr. Michael. But I want to get a job, and nobody gives a shit about your grades after college. So, let's live it up. But in hindsight, looking back at this journey, an exam that how old is somebody in first grade? I don't even know. How old is a first grader? Yeah, okay, so somebody who's 6 or 7 years old, 6 or 7. The kids are doing that now. They're obsessed with 6, 7. And so if you're 6 or 7 years old in first grade, And on one day, when you're a 6-year-old kid, you have a good day, you're focused, you're locked in, or you're, you know, the alternative, you're bouncing off the walls, and you can't even write your own name, or the teacher can barely keep you in your seat if you're high energy, or they call it ADHD. They give it a diagnosis to make it sound bad. But on that basis alone, your entire future is essentially decided by what happens on one exam on one day of your life when you're 6 or 7 years old. And it goes deeper than just whether you're on the accelerated track in the curriculum, because they obviously break it down based on how many slots they have in the accelerator. So there's less slots in the gifted course, and there's less slots in the remedial course, and then the middle of the bell curve are designed to be in just the regular curriculum. So you get a little bit of a ego trip when you're told that you're smarter than most kids. They tell you you're special. You're ahead of the curve. You know more math. You're better. And we believed that. Like my friend group was all in the accelerated courses, and we all had this ego trip going that we're smarter than the dumb kids that didn't get good grades and weren't in the advanced math classes. And so we reinforced this idea ourselves that we were highly intelligent, and we reinforced it to each other within our social group that if you're in our social group, obviously you're very intelligent. And just this belief alone kept us from self-doubting that we couldn't solve the math problem, or we couldn't read the book that was ahead of our age bracket in the reading class. So this belief spans decades and decades, again based on one exam on one day that you take when you are 6 or 7. You don't know your ass from a bass fiddle. But there's something really powerful here, and that's that belief that was installed. And I think that's the most important factor in the entire equation, is what are you telling yourself? What story are you telling yourself in the short term, in the days leading up to an exam, in the weeks after you get the grade, in the months after you finish the course, in the years after you graduate. These things stack together, and they pile up, and they create an upward spiral or a downward spiral. Tiny wins lead to medium-sized wins, lead to major victories. Every battle feeds into the winning the war. And likewise, if you're in the remedial class, like your brain's telling you you're not as smart as everybody else, you go down, 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 down. Every year that goes by, you're taking a class below what everybody else is taking. It just reinforces the idea that you're just this stupid idiot. Which, mind you, like I'm reflecting on this. I think just as easily a lot of people may have had similar aptitude that just had a bad day on that test and got placed somewhere else and lived an entirely different life. And so that's the secret that I want to share with you, is cultivating those beliefs, or as I'm going to call them, intellectual blind spots. is that you want to generally be sane, right? Everybody wants to be well adjusted to society. In some sense, you want to be like everybody else. You want to be relatable. If you're not relatable, you don't have friends. If you can't talk to people, nobody wants to give you a job. If you if you want to just be a functioning member of society, you have to sort of stay within the parameters of what's acceptable to most people in most situations, or some people in the situations that you actually need to be in or choose to be in. So if you want to have an extraordinary life, you need to get really selective about which way you want to be extraordinary. Because honestly, you don't have all the time in the world. You don't have all the potential in the world. However old you are, just sort of figure out if you want to live to be 100 or 150 or 200, whatever. Technology is getting better, and maybe human lifespan is actually meant to be longer if you really tell yourselves you can live that long. But anyway, just figure out how much time you got left, relatively speaking, and get sort of realistic about your potential, like what you can do, what you can't do. Me, like, I'm 36 years old. There is no way in hell that I'm ever going to be a pro basketball player. I'm like 5'8.5" on a good day. Like, the most athletic things that I do are running and rollerblading, and I honestly spend more time in meditation than doing those things. So I will never be a pro basketball player. Now, somebody who's 7 or 8 years old and they don't have any major like physical disability, if they start now and they every day in, day out, from the minute the school bell rings, they get out of school, they go home, they're just shooting baskets, running drills. There's a chance for a person like that. Me, I can't even be drafted for the military anymore. My father expressed gratitude for that on my last birthday. But there are a lot of things that I can do that seem delusional to somebody else, that I haven't done yet, that don't seem delusional to me. In fact, most of what I've accomplished that I'm proud of, when I decide to do it, if I had told people about it, would sound pretty delusional. Telling people I want to quit my job, that I want to make a living as a content creator, that I want to help people on their spiritual journey, that I want to build up my energy system and study Qigong and go deep into meditative states, to practice astral projection, lucid dreaming, and get paid for it. People would have told you I was insane. My friends, they might have humored me, so I told them about it and say, "Oh, that's nice," but it's totally unrelatable to them. Now, I had to choose very carefully what I wanted to believe was possible, that I knew I could achieve, even though it seemed a little bit pie in the sky. I absolutely knew, like, this is something that I could literally do, post 30, like, I could do that. And I had to cultivate this belief. Like, it starts as something you want to do. You see somebody else do, maybe you're a little jealous that they did it, or you you see somebody as an example and you want that for yourself. And gradually that I wish turns into I can if you cultivate the belief. Now, the way that I look at belief in the context of Destiny Engine is cultivating intellectual blind spots. Intellectual blind spots are an interesting beast. And this is what you have to be very careful with. Because these blind spots are things that can really, really help you, or they can destroy you. You know, it's everybody has blind spots in their character. There are certain things that your friends will be able to tell you about you that you're not able to see. Like if everybody's calling you an asshole and you've just decided you're a great person, well, it's not actually for you to decide if you're a great person. If literally everybody that knows you is calling you an asshole, you're an asshole. Right? So having that kind of blind spot can work against you if you're not willing to accept that you're not making the people around you happy. Okay, because you're an asshole. And you can hold the belief you're not an asshole. You're free to do that. But it's not really serving you. And in fact, this intellectual blind spot is becoming a delusion. So we're skating this line between a blind spot that can potentially serve you versus a delusion. Now, the belief that you're not an asshole, if everybody else thinks you're an asshole, can serve you in some ways in the short term. And I believe you can run a solid short-term game with everybody thinking that you're an asshole, because having this blind spot means that you don't have to put in the work to figure out how to open your heart, how to relate to people, how to help other people, how to not be condescending, whatever your poison is in your character armoring for why you're an asshole. You don't have to discover what those things are and work on yourself. And you can instead focus on more selfish things. So that's a negative example, that this intellectual blind spot helps you to achieve and do things that you want to do at the cost of not having to worry about what other people think. So I'm not suggesting that you cultivate such a blind spot. The kind of blind spot that I think can help a lot of people is to believe non-destructive, positive things about yourself. Like believing that you're highly intelligent. Believing that you have extraordinary awareness and perception. Believing that you can solve problems. Even if you've never been successful at anything in your life. Even if you've never solved a problem before. I firmly believe there's a lot of people that have never solved a problem. It's bred into us now. I can't really blame people, I guess. But to cultivate the belief that you can solve a problem, or that you're highly intelligent, or that your ability to respond to situations is above average, these kind of beliefs will actually open up the space for you to be able to do just that. If you believe that you're highly intelligent, you won't spend your mental energy telling yourself how stupid you are. Even if you've never succeeded at anything in your life, even if you've never gotten the grade, whether it's true or not that Einstein failed mathematics, he certainly believed that he was going to discover this theory of relativity, regardless of what happened in primary school, it didn't matter. And now he's revered as a genius, the father of modern physics, just because of this belief that an intractable problem in the sciences was his to unearth. And if you have that kind of audacity, is why not you? It could be anybody. Anybody can solve problems. Anybody can tap into the divine. Anybody can access higher intelligence. Why not you? So you can cultivate that kind of blind spot that you're intelligent, and that opens up the space in your mind to be able to parse the details of something, to allow the intelligence to work through you. This also works well for social type of situations. If you're somebody with social anxiety, you can brainwash yourself, just open up a protocol in Destiny Engine to believe that you're the most charming person in the room. That you're the most interesting person in the room. That your stories are worth sharing. That people hang on your every word. That you project charisma. These are the type of things that are literally identical with the belief itself. The belief that you're awesome is, in fact, the social currency that makes you awesome. Develop that kind of blind spot. There's people on Reddit now that are using subliminal messaging to actually modify their appearance. They're literally brainwashing themselves that they're the most gorgeous person to walk the earth. And I have a hard time seeing how such a belief can work against you. What's the worst thing that's going to happen if you are like a 4 or a 5 and you suddenly believe that you're a 9 or a 10? What are you going to do? Smile more? What are you going to take better care of your diet and eat better and be the kind of person that parks a little farther from the store to get some more steps in just because you enjoy moving? And it all starts with just believing that you're the type of person that would do that. And this type of belief can come to you from outside. It can be given to you. Just like my first grade teacher gave me the belief that I had above average intelligence. And I kept that belief to this day. Or this type of belief, you can generate it from within. And people struggle with this, to generate a belief from within. Maybe you struggle with this. You want to believe something. And then holding that belief, holding that thought for more than a couple minutes, meditating on anything for more than a couple minutes is problematic for most Westerners that just can't meditate, so they don't bother. Most people suck at meditating. But the reason you do it is to cultivate a focus on one thing, a one-pointed concentration. But if you are struggling to hold a belief for a long period of time, necessary to have that kind of change over the days, the weeks, the months, the years, That's okay. It's okay and it's normal. You're in good company. But why not plug it into Destiny Engine? Why not use the binaural beats to brainwash yourself? Why not clone your own voice, make affirmations in your own voice, layer it on top of the binaural beats, and play it back to yourself? All of a sudden, it just sounds like a thought in your own head. I've noticed more and more, and especially after talking to some of you fine folk in the Destiny Hackers mastermind group, that these kind of meditations, you may not even have to listen to them for as long as you think. I had my experience because I built this thing, but I've heard from several others that if you listen to a Destiny Engine meditation once or twice, maybe 3 times, and it's meant to rewrite your beliefs. You could use gamma, you could use theta, just play with it. But it'll sneak up on you, man. You won't even know it's happening. It's tough to be that perceptive of your own mind because it's working on levels that most of us don't have access to. It's in system level directories that's the console you're playing with. And so, some people say, "Oh, this doesn't work. I don't get it. It's bull crap." I don't think you really know what it did to you. It goes deep into your console and it rewrites core beliefs. And to me and these others that I spoke with, you don't even feel it. You don't even know it's happening. You might feel something on the surface. You might feel something is happening. But what's really happening underneath the surface, you have no idea. And that's why I put the legal disclaimers. That's why I warn you, be careful with this. Because you can develop blind spots that will make your ego so gigantic that you'll be incomprehensible to anybody. And I don't think the people around you want that, and I don't think you want that. And I've seen it. I've seen people, even with just regular AI, and I talk about chatbot psychosis in the other videos, even people just using a chatbot outside of Destiny Engine will develop this assuredness about just plain egoic delusion that they can't be helped, man. It's kind of scary how AI can reinforce an egocentric worldview. So this is why you have to be very self-aware, very careful of what you want to cultivate. And my conscience is clear because I'm telling you this. I tell you this in multiple videos. But I also am pro-Americana, a pro-Second Amendment. I want you to have the most powerful consciousness weapon with the safety off. And I think you should be trusted with it because you're an adult and you can make your own decisions and you only got one life. And quite frankly, the onslaught of technologies that the elites are using against us, I don't know if we stand a chance. otherwise. They don't give you an option to program yourself. They give you Keeping Up with the Kardashians. They give you Jerry Springer. They give you Spotify. They give you Netflix, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Of course, I like to think that our channel is higher level consciousness altering content. So if you're going to cancel the other stuff, make sure you keep a subscription to Destiny Hackers Collective, because we want to give you the remote control to your own mind. They're embedding subliminal messages in the lyrics of songs. They're trying to get you to buy more bullshit with advertising in every single platform. They're giving you dopamine hits that you didn't ask for, and if you so much as hovered for a quarter of a second longer on something the algorithm flashed on your screen, it knows what you like. It knows how to sell you sex. It knows how to sell you food. It knows when you're hungry. It knows when to advertise coupons for dinner. It knows if you're struggling with finances. They're advanced, and they're trying to learn you so they can play you like an accordion. And, about 1 hour in a decade, somebody like me comes along and opens up the console. It tries to give you guys access to reprogram yourselves. And how many times I've heard from people in our private community, in the Obsidian Inner Order, that they're being watched, they're being targeted, they're being gang stalked, they're on some kind of watch list. The number of people who have told me they're being watched by the CIA, I don't know how many of them are delusional, how many of them have been reinforced by chatbot psychosis, and I'm sure some of them are. I'm sure some of them have actually been on watch lists from CIA or other three-letter organizations. And the sheer number of people that have told me that and continue to interact with me on a daily basis and use Destiny Engine, I would be shocked if they don't eventually catch on to what we're offering here. I would be amazed if they didn't already know what we're offering. I don't know if they're going to try to do anything about it, if they feel threatened or not. I doubt if they feel threatened at this stage. But meditation apps don't do this. Meditation apps don't say, here, input goals. What's your specific goal? I was talking to one gal the other day. Said she likes our meditations better than the Monroe Institute, and she actually went for a retreat for veterans. Thank you for your service, by the way. She said she likes Destiny Engine meditations better because it's personalized and it uses 4-letter words if you ask for them. It's more real. Tailor-made, binaural beats, on sale now for $1. I lose money on this. Come on, guys. It's a no-brainer. Get your trial for $1. We'll see who's the idiot here. Maybe I'm the idiot for offering it at a loss. But give it a shot and see if the changes that you're looking for don't just sneak up on you. Develop those intellectual blind spots and watch the magic unfold. This is Mike from the Destiny Hackers Collective, brought to you by the Astral Atom Network. If you like this video, it would help us a ton if you just click that like button, hit the subscribe bell, get the notifications, and drop a comment with your intellectual blind spots, where you choose to ignore quote unquote reality. And how has that served you? And what are you going to do next? We'll see you in the subsequent video. Goodbye for now.